Hi, how's everybody doing? And welcome to the Young Brother of Soul podcast show. And it is me, your guy, the Young Brother of Soul. So, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to my hometown team, the Philadelphia Eagles, for having a great comeback win against the LA Rams. All I know, we were down 26-7, and my brother was like, "We're going to come back." I said, "Okay." And Jalen Hurts threw what, three touchdowns. Jordan Davis blocked two field goals, and next thing you know, he ran one back. So, yeah, shout out to my hometown Philadelphia Eagles, 3-0. And also shout out to my hometown baseball team, the Philadelphia Phillies, who won the NL East and are going back to the playoffs. So shout out to them. Hopefully the Phillies will win the World Series this year because I believe it's their time. So on today's episode, I want to talk about NFL curses. NFL teams that are cursed. Do I believe in curses when it comes to sports? Oh, most definitely. Baseball, the curse of the Bambino, the Billy Goat, or the Black Sox. And then you have the NBA, the NHL. But when it comes to the NFL, oh, I believe in curses. Yes, I do. Also, before I get started with this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what y'all think. And I'm also, don't forget, I'm also a singer and songwriter too, but we'll talk about that later. So, NFL curses. The top 10 NFL curse of all time, the curse of the Honey Bear. So, in 1977, owner founder George Halas of the Chicago Bears stated that he wanted to upstage the Dallas Cowgirls, which I practically don't blame him. He wanted to have cheerleaders, dancers, and they were called the Honey Bears. And believe it or not, their contract ended in 1985, and that was the year that the '85 Bears won Super Bowl 20, and they were mysteriously gone. Quite frankly, the Bears have not been the same since the Honey Bears exited. And not only that, I only seen them make one Super Bowl, which they lost, two NFC championships, especially the NFC championship in 2010. I thought they were going to win that because that defense was crazy, but they lost to the great Aaron Rodgers, so who practically owns them. So yeah, and quite frankly, the Bears are another NFL franchise that goes through a lot of quarterbacks. Their best quarterback was Sid Luckman. That was back in the 30s and 40s, and Jim McMahon, even though he won a Super Bowl, but Walter Payton had to deal with a lot of different quarterbacks. So, yeah. And then, of course, there was Rex Grossman, Kyle Orton. He was okay. Jay Cutler, uh, Justin Fields, who I feel as though they didn't give him a chance, but, things happen. And then now they have Caleb Williams, but the only way for the Bears to win another Super Bowl is unless they bring back the Honey Bears. So, yeah. He passed away. George Hollis passed away in 1983, and he said, "As long as I'm alive, I'm going to have honey bears." Well, his daughter took over, and she felt that cheerleaders didn't belong on a football team. So, God forbid, but she passed away too. So, bring back the honey bears. And Chicago fans, if you feel as though that the honey bears are going to help bring a Super Bowl back, it might do. The number nine curse of all time, football curse. The curse of Billy Penn. So in 1681, William Penn was granted the land, Pennsylvania, and they had a gentleman's agreement that no building should be bigger than a skyscraper in the city of Philadelphia, in Center City. Well, in 1987, they started building bigger buildings, and that was the beginning of the curse. The Flyers lost the Stanley Cup that year. The Eagles had the Fog Bowl in 1988. The Phillies lost the World Series. Actually, the Flyers actually lost three Stanley Cups, and the Sixers lost the NBA Finals. But the Eagles have dealt with it too because they lost three NFC championships straight. They lost Super Bowl 39, and they lost the 2008 NFC championship to the Arizona Cardinals. I was quietly hurt when they lost to Tampa Bay, Carolina, and the Cardinals, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. But in 2008, the Comcast building, which was the biggest building in the city of Philadelphia, they put a little statue of Billy Penn, and the Phillies won a World Series. And then a few years later, the Comcast Technology building, which was the biggest building of Philadelphia as of right now, they put another little statue of Billy Penn, and the Eagles won a Super Bowl 3 months after. And then 7 years later, the Eagles won another Super Bowl. So that shows you that that curse is real. So make sure if they're going to keep building big buildings in the city of Philadelphia, keep the little statue of Billy Penn. So the curse has been uplifted. Yes, it has. The number 8 NFL curse of all time, the Pottsville curse. So back in 1925, the Pottsville Maroons clearly defeated the Chicago Cardinals, which are now the Arizona Cardinals. Well, the next week after the NFL championship, the Maroons played a Notre Dame All-Star game, and the NFL wasn't having it. See, back in the day, it was about the money. It was in 1925. Like, come on. Well, they took the title from them, gave it to the Cardinals, and they suspended them from the league. They were banned from the league. So the Arizona Cardinals are cursed. If you think about it, they went from Chicago, they went to St. Louis, then now they're in Phoenix. The quarterbacks kept getting sacked so much, but they did make it to Super Bowl 43, which they lost. And if you think about it, that touchdown return interception by James Harrison, something was really, really blocking the Cardinals from tackling him. He did 100 yards and he scored. So, yeah, that all the Cardinals got to do is just acknowledge that the Pottsville Maroons won the NFL championship in 1925. Well, since they won't give it back, that curse is going to stay on them. Excuse me. The number 7 football curse of all time, the Buffalo McKinley curse. So, in 1901, the 25th president of the United States, William McKinley, visited the city of Buffalo, and they had a state fair there. Well, while he was there, some guy came out of nowhere and assassinated him. And they're saying that nothing's good has happened in Buffalo. Well, legend has it that since the McKinley assassination, nothing's really good has happened. The NBA team left town. The NHL team lost the Stanley Cup to a real bad call. Uh, then you have O.J. Simpson, who was a good running back, who was the first running back to do 2,000 yards in a season. And at that time, it was 14 games. And then, of course, you had the early 90s Bills. To this day, a lot of people talk about the early 90s Bills. You made it to 4 straight Super Bowls and you lost all 4 of them. I believe the one that they lost to the Giants, I think they would have won that, but the kicker missed the field goal. The next thing you know, they lost the next one to Washington. At the time, they were the Redskins, and Thurman Thomas lost his helmet. How do you lose your helmet in the Super Bowl? Like, who does that? And then the next two, they got blown out by Dallas. Oh, my God. And, of course, they lost the 99 playoff game against the Tennessee Titans, which was a definitely controversial play. The kickoff return. A lot of people claim that it wasn't a backwards pass, it was a forward pass. If it's forward, it's legal. If it's backwards, it's legal. So, yeah. And then, of course, the 2000s and the 2010s Buffalo Bills, they have done nothing. They have a guy by the name of Josh Allen, who happens to be a good quarterback, but he made it to 2 AFC championships. Of course, he lost to Kansas City. Kansas City kind of owns him, so yeah. I don't know how they're going to uplift that curse, but yeah, the Buffalo Bills are definitely cursed. The number 6 NFL curse of all time, Joe Namath's deal with the enemy. I'm not going to say, but Super Bowl 3, the Baltimore Colts were heavily favored to win the Super Bowl against the New York Jets. Well, before the Super Bowl, or was it the day before the Super Bowl, legend has it that Joe Namath made a deal with the enemy, and he told the enemy, he said, "Enemy, give me this Super Bowl, and you don't have to give the Jets nothing." Quite frankly, excuse me, quite frankly, the Jets have not been the same after Joe Namath. And there's another NFL franchise that went through so many quarterbacks. The only quarterback I think they had was good after Joe Namath was Chad Pennington. And of course, they had Brett Favre that year, which they were doing good, and then all of a sudden they collapsed and did not make the playoffs. But other than that, I remember they made back-to-back AFC championships in 2009 and 2010, which they lost to the Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Jets have not been back to the playoffs. So, yeah, the Jets have not been the same since Joe Namath. So, that shows you that that curse is real. He made a deal with the enemy, he got a Super Bowl, and the Jets have done nothing. So, no. Yeah. Excuse me, I meant to say yes. That curse is definitely real. So, mm, my best advice is do not make a deal with the enemy. It is not a good outcome. But Joe Namath still living a good life. I mean, he's in his what 80s now. He does commercials and yeah. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. The number five NFL curse of all time: Marcus Allen Hex Al Davis. Excuse me, Marcus Allen, who had a heck of a run in the Super Bowl against the Redskins. He went backwards and then ran it all the way for a touchdown. Al Davis felt though that he was a cancer to the team. Like all the attention was going to him. He was a good running back. Like what do you expect? He's a Heisman Trophy winner. Well, Al Davis didn't like it. He benched him, and Marcus Allen signed with their arch rivalry, the Kansas City Chiefs, in which he is a part of their Hall of Fame. In the NFL Hall of Fame, he went as a Chief. So they're claiming that Marcus Allen put a picture of Al Davis and froze it in his freezer. Put a hex on him. And I hope nobody takes in any ideas of this. Do not do it. Um, Quite frankly, the Raiders have not been the same since after Marcus Allen. No, they haven't. They lost so many times in the 90s. They lost the 2000 AFC Championship to the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, Rich Gannon got his shoulder blown. Oh my God. Then they lost to the New England Patriots in the divisional round. That tuck rule. Everybody knows that that is one of the most controversial calls in the NFL. Everybody knows that. Come on, Tom Brady. You know it. Your arm was not going forward. Charles Woodson hit that ball. That was a fumble. And I believe Oakland would have won that game. But they ruled it an incompletion. His arm was going forward. And where was it done at? It was done in the snow. Oh, boy. Poor Raiders fans. Even though y'all got 3 Super Bowls, but the next year, they got blown out by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Super Bowl 37 against their former head coach, John Gruden. They traded him to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I didn't know you could trade head coaches. I didn't know that. Later on, before that, I never knew that. Well, I guess John Gruden said, "I'll show you something." He blew them out, and they intercepted Rich Gannon 5 times and ran 3 back for a touchdown. Yeah, but the Raiders are still the Raiders are still the Raiders. They have not been the same since. I mean, they had Derek Carr, who was a good quarterback, but yeah, the Raiders are still the Raiders. Then they moved to Las Vegas, which yeah, the Raiders. Oh God, back in the day, the Raiders were the Raiders, but now, yeah, like I said, they have not been the same since Marcus Allen. And then he put the hex on Al Davis. So Al Davis shouldn't have did that to Marcus Allen. Now, yeah. Mm-mm-mm. The number four NFL curse of all time, the SI cover jinx. Now, legend has it that, excuse me, legend has it that if anybody appears on the SI cover, Sports Illustrated, it's a jinx. Do I think it's real? Yes and no, but if you think about it, prime example, the draft class of 1989. Troy Aikman, Tony Mandarich, Deion Sanders, Derek Thomas, Barry Sanders. Out of those five, only four are Hall of Famers. Tony Mandarich got on the cover and he was a bust. Then Another example, the Kansas City Chiefs in 2003 were 9-0. They appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and fans tried to burn the cover of the magazine. And the next week, they lost to the Bengals. So, is that Sports Illustrated curse real? I believe it's real, but there were far too many examples that happened. They even did a cover jinx one time with a cat on it. So, yeah, that Sports Illustrated cover, oh boy. I mean, you barely hear about it anymore, but some you do, some you don't. But so many athletes appeared on it. Some didn't go through the curse, some did. But yeah, the SI cover jinx. I mean, this one time, this guy was talking to Bill Parcells, who was the head coach of the Giants. And they started talking about doing something in the magazine. Bill Parcells cut him off, said, no cover, no cover, no cover. So that shows you, yeah, that Sports Illustrated curse, cover jinx is a curse. Yeah. Mm, 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 mm. If I was an athlete, no, do not put me on that cover. No, 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 no. I don't care how many votes I get. Do not put me on the cover. So, yeah. The number three NFL curse of all time, the Superdome curse. So, in 1975, the New Orleans Saints Superdome was built. One time they were doing structure and they found corpse, they found bones, and they called the cops and they said they thought it was another murder scene. They said, "Oh no, this is the old Girard Street Cemetery." Cemetery? Are you kidding me? If you build something over an old cemetery, that building is going to be cursed. And if you think about it, the New Orleans Saints, they basically went 20 years without a winning record. Then they made it to the playoffs in 1992. They lost. They made it to the playoffs in 2000. They actually won their first playoff game, but they did win Super Bowl 44. So I give them that. I really give them that. And especially that happened years after Hurricane Katrina. So yeah, and especially during that hurricane, the Superdome was, oh boy, it went through so many people, during that hurricane. It was a mess. I feel sorry for the victims of Hurricane Katrina, and it's been 20 years, and till this day, it's still no. I feel bad, but yeah, that Superdome is cursed, and not only that, it hosted so many Super Bowls, but in Super Bowl 47, when it was the Baltimore Ravens versus the San Francisco 49ers, what happened? After halftime, the lights went out. How does the lights go out in a stadium in the Super Bowl? That is the first time that ever happened. And quite frankly, I mean, the lights came back on. The San Francisco 49ers came back, but the Ravens did win it. But yeah, that Superdome is definitely cursed. Build over an old cemetery. You don't build nothing over an old cemetery, man. Come on now. Like, who does stuff like that? I wouldn't even think of doing nothing like that. But yeah, yeah. Well, at least the Saints won a Super Bowl, but their first 20 years, they didn't have a winning record. So, eh, eh, eh. I mean, they only had, during that time, they had Archie Manning, who was their lone superstar, but then you had a guy by the name of Drew Brees. So, shout out to Drew Brees. He was a good quarterback, but yeah, that Superdome is, oh, God. Yeah. The number two football curse of all time. Oh, boy. The Madden cover curse. Wow. Madden, which is one of the most successful franchise of a video game. And John Madden always appeared on it until they had Barry Sanders, who retired out of nowhere. Garrison Hurst broke his ankle in two different places. He was out of the league for 2 years. Oh boy, how many victims? Of course, you had Eddie George. Didn't really suffer from the curse, but he did retire early during his prime. Eddie George was a good running back. Boy, who else you had on there? Dante Culpepper, Marshall Falk, Michael Vick, Ray Lewis, Donovan McNabb, Sean Alexander, Vince Young, Brett Favre, um, Troy Polamalu, and Larry Fitzgerald. And the list goes on and on. Peyton Hillis, Calvin Johnson. Excuse me. So many players have been getting injured. The next year, yeah, Michael Vick, the prime example, broke his fibula in the 2003 preseason game. Yeah. Ray Lewis broke his wrist. Donovan McNabb, he came off a Super Bowl appearance the next year. Oh man, that 2005 year. Oh boy. Sean Alexander, he was a good running back for the Seattle Seahawks. He came on a cover and he got hurt the next year, and then he was out of the league 2 years after that. Like, oh boy, another prime example of a person who went through the curse. Antonio Brown, excuse me, Antonio Brown. Ever since he appeared on that, he has not been. Yeah, I remember during the playoff game against the Cincinnati Bengals when Vontez Burfict, who was one of the most dirtiest, excuse me, one of the most dirtiest NFL players, he hit him in the head, and he had CTE ever since, I believe. He was starting to be a problem with the Steelers. He was being a problem with Ben Roethlisberger. The next thing you know, he demanded a trade. He went to the Raiders. He was a problem there. Then he went to the Patriots. He got cut. The next thing you know, he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He actually won a Super Bowl. Then the next year, he took off his equipment and exited the game, I believe because he wasn't getting the ball enough. So that made him got cut. And he has not been in the league ever since. So, yeah, that's definitely an example of that Madden curse. Well, Saquon Barkley is on the cover of Madden 26, so hopefully, I don't think nothing's going to happen to Saquon, but yeah, that Madden cover curse, oh boy, it's real. The number one NFL curse of all time, the curse of Bobby Lane. Now, Bobby Lane, he was a character. He was a character outside out the field and on the field. He was the Detroit Lions quarterback who won 3 NFL championships in the 1950s. Well, in 1957, which was their last championship, he breaks his leg, and they went on to win a championship that year with another quarterback, of course. The next year, Bobby Lane was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was pissed. You tell me? He was upset. And you know what he said? While he was leaving town, the Lions will not win within the next 50 years. Oh boy, why did the Lions trade him? He was such a good quarterback. And if you think about it, the Lions have not been the same after Bobby Lane. They only won, before the 2023 season, they only won one playoff game, which was 1990 something. They've been through so many quarterbacks. Oh my God. Charlie Batch, Rodney Peete, Andre Ware, Joey Harrington, Mike Kitka, whatever his name is. But yeah, that definitely, yeah, Bobby Lane was a good quarterback. But what's crazy is after the 50 years of the curse, so in 2008 was 51 years after the curse. It was supposed to be over with, but in 2008, I will never forget when the 2008 Lions were definitely a bad team because they went 0-16. So 0-16, you lost all of your games. They were the first NFL team to lose all 16. I will never forget that year. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I will never forget that year. And The next year, they drafted Matthew Stafford, who was a good quarterback. Not only that he went to the same high school as Bobby Lane, he grew up on the same neighborhood as Bobby Lane. But that shows you they traded Matthew Stafford to the LA Rams for Jared Goff, and Matthew Stafford won the Super Bowl with the LA Rams his first year. And then they got Jared Goff, which they went to the 2023 NFC Championship. So they won 2 playoffs that year, but they lost. So their playoff wins in their franchises, they only have what, four, three or four. So yeah, that shows you that the curse of Bobby Lane is real. So poor Detroit fans. I also want to do some honorable mention of curses. The curses of Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, the chunky suit, which players got hurt. Donovan McNabb, Michael Strahan, Terrell Davis, who had a career-ending injury. Now that I think about it, Donovan McNabb actually went through 3 curses: Madden curse, chunky suit, and the curse of Billy Penn. So, yeah, well, he wasn't the only quarterback that went through it. Well, of course, Randall Cunningham, but yeah, he went through it. And then you have announcer's curse, and then you also have hosting curse, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers broke that, and the LA Rams also broke that. They are the only 2 teams that won a Super Bowl in their home stadium. So, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are your top 10 NFL curses. Teams that are cursed, you might as well say. But, yeah, NFL curses. Before we end this video, I just want everybody here to know I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all hit that thumbs up, subscribe button, and leave a comment. And not only that, everybody stay safe out here. But before I go, to my hometown Philadelphia Eagles, y'all better resign C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Resign him back. And that is the end of this episode of the Young Brother Soul podcast show. And good night from the Young Brother Soul. I'll holler at y'all.